Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to our distinguished guests, esteemed colleagues, and participants from all around the world. Welcome to the 11th and final high-level policy session in what has surely been an extraordinary WSIS Forum. My name is Babu Signoni, and I'm a Zimbabwean tech entrepreneur building tools for underserved communities. And I join you today in my capacity as the founder of Sila Health, which is an e-health company harnessing artificial intelligence and SMS technology to bring access to healthcare to Africa's low-income communities. Unfortunately, I'm not alone today. I'm thankfully joined by an incredible lineup of panelists with whom I'll be unpacking the theme of this session, gender mainstreaming. And it has already been widely recognized through the past decades that the inclusion of women is vital for the shift towards development and poverty eradication. Yet persistent concerns regarding female inclusion and gender equality remain. Exactly 20 years ago, the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action in 1995 called for the full and equal participation of women in and through media and new technologies for communication. And yet, according to a report by the UN Broadband Commission Working Group on Gender, 200 million fewer women than men around the world have internet access today. Our session today seeks to explore the interventions that will enable and accelerate the role of ICTs in bridging the gender gap. ICTs are tools through which gender equality and women's empowerment can be advanced and are integral to the creation of societies in which both women and men can substantively contribute and participate. Before we kickstart today's session, I'd like to quickly go over some house rules. Please be aware that we have live captioning and that is being provisioned for this session, and attendees can find the closed caption button at the bottom of the Zoom screen. In order to accommodate all responses and allow for questions, we ask that each panelist adhere to a 5-minute limit when responding to their question. We ask that while they are speaking, may all participants keep their microphones muted at all times. And should you like to raise a question, please use the Q&A box to make a submission for consideration by our panelists in the second part of our session. Being that this is the final high-level engagement of this year's edition of the WSIS Forum, we will mark the end of our session with closing remarks from the Honorable Secretary General of the International Telecommunication Union, ITU. And without further ado, I now turn to our first panelist, Her Excellency, the Secretary General of the Supreme Council for Motherhood and Childhood. She strives to promote the participation and empowerment of women and children, and ensuring support is granted for all mothers and children. I pose this question to you, Your Excellency. What is the role of the United Arab Emirates in engaging women in creating a creative and sustainable future based on the tools of the Fourth Industrial Revolution? And the second part to this reads, what are the UAE plans to empower and build women's capabilities in the field of communications and information technology? And what are the opportunities for technical entrepreneurship in the UAE? Over to you.
Thank you, Babusi, for the introduction. It's a great honor to be here with you today. I'll start with the first part of your question. We in the UAE, supported by our leadership, institutions, and national mechanisms, believe in the women participation in building societies. And we are very keen on enabling their capabilities and preparing a young generation of talents, entrepreneurs for the fourth industrial revolution and equipping them with the necessary knowledge and skills in the fields of advanced sciences and technology through an educational system focused on the applied side of innovation and entrepreneurship in priority sectors. Girl education started in 1954. Even before the establishment of the Federation. Today, the number of women enrolled in the universities exceeds 324,000, distributed among more than 75 universities across the country, of which 63% of students are females. The beginning of our actual journey in empowering women started in 1975 when the late Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan, may he rest in peace, directed to establishing the General Women's Union, our first national mechanism for advancement, empowerment, and leadership of women in the United Arab Emirates, headed by the mother of the nation, Her Highness Sheikha Fatima bint Mubarak, the chairwoman of the General Women's Union and the chairwoman of the Family Development Foundation and the Supreme Council for Motherhood and Childhood. Today, I can say we are proud that we have inventors as young as 7-year-olds. That was a few years back. Today, one of our inspirational young inventors is a first-year student in Virginia Tech University. Her name is Fatima Al-Ka'bi. She has won several awards, local awards and international awards. And today she proudly represents us, the United Arab Emirates, in the Youth Assembly of the United Nations. Going back to your question about our plans to empower and build women's capabilities in the field of communications and information technology. In the United Arab Emirates, we're one of the first countries that always seek to invest in the future and anticipate opportunities and find proactive solutions to challenges. So a number of strategies were prepared, such as the National Strategy for Women's Empowerment, Women's Leadership, and the Emirati Strategy for the Fourth Industrial Revolution, the Advanced Science Strategy, and other relevant strategies in clarifying plans and programs that support the process of supporting and empowering women. We have set initiatives directed to women, both women and children, and have been implemented based on strategies that have been developed. A small part of them was a project or an initiative that we're extremely proud of, that won the WSIS award, Safe Surfers. This is an initiative that we worked on in collaboration with our strategic partners in the government, the TRA and the General Women's Union. Another initiative is more of a service which was created to anticipate the future of Emirati women and search the real needs of women through which to open a case or a proposal and open the way for members of society to participate in expressing their opinion. In addition to that, Emirati women can be a good example of outputs and strategies applied, in which has proven the presence of women, Emirati women in the space sector. As you all know, with the recent Mars mission here in the United Arab Emirates, Space Agency focuses on the developing skills of females as well as male, and where females represent 40% of the staff and the Emirati Space Agency. Emirati women led a scientific team to the Mars exploration project today and participate in space science studies with the most important international space agencies. About the opportunities in technical entrepreneurship in the United Arab Emirates, I'd like to say that here in the UAE, we're always seeking for change-making individuals who do not only have the ability to innovate, but who have the courage and motivation that they live their dreams and turn their ideas into realities. In the country, we have provided the tools, the programs, institutions that facilitate the process of individuals' involvement in the technology entrepreneurship sector by creating stimulating business environments that encourage effective partnerships between the government and private sectors, and in some ways including the councils of businesswomen across the UAE, aiming to activate the role and participation of women and business leaders and innovators in the private sector, and to contribute to the maintaining the community of their business, providing advice in addition to supporting and establishing integrated and innovative business incubators, and encouraging creative ideas of women, identifying and developing them, and providing the necessary environment for their sustainability. Most of the country's economic departments offer special facilities for entrepreneurship licenses and entrepreneurship for women. Funds are also designed solely for financing technical projects such as communications and information technology. I summarize my words by seeing our leadership as we in the United Arab Emirates are racing against time. The impossible does not exist here, neither by our methodology nor the way we work. And we no longer have the boundaries to our aspirations, and we have gone through the stage of empowering women, and we have passed the stage by empowering society through women. Emirati women are an active partner in society and a pillar of its success. After the state has provided during the past decades the tools of empowering women through strategies and plans, today we are heading to a new stage in which we provide more tools that enhance their leadership role in our society and raise the rates of their participation and representation in all fields, locally, regionally, and internationally. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for that comprehensive response. I now pass the reins over to our next panelist, the Honorable Secretary General of the EMEA Satellite Operations Association, SOA. She has been the Secretary General of the SOA since 2004 and is a member of the World Economic Forum's Global Future Council on Space Technology, Global 5G Coalition Network, and the Essential Digital Infrastructure and Services Network. Honorable Secretary General, my question to you interrogates the difficulties faced by women who go on to leave indelible marks in technologically driven industries. The satellite sector is a high-tech sector. Can women really aim for the stars and overcome the hurdles to make a difference in this sector? Over to you.
Thank you so much. Your Excellency, distinguished panelists, I feel privileged to participate in this event, and I thank you for including me. Indeed, the space sector is exciting and it's high-tech, and it's one that makes people dream. Which of us has not looked at the moon and wondered what it's like to be launched into space? I count myself very lucky to work in this sector, and while we certainly are the minority, I do meet many inspiring women in my work. Ladies who are astronauts like Claudie Aigneret from France, others who literally fly satellites like Fatma Al-Yamahi, who is a flight dynamics engineer at Yahsat in the UAE. Simonetta Di Pippo, an Italian astrophysicist who was the European Space Agency's first female director of human spaceflight. And even Maritza Delgado at the ITU, an engineer who flies around the world supporting the installation of satellite equipment at times of disaster. I also work with many other spectrum and regulatory colleagues who are as tough as nails in what they do. Girls already at a young age start losing their dreams as they mold to meet the expectations of others. Those expectations are not likely to be around high tech and space. That was certainly very true for me, and it was only around the age of 25 that I felt able to break free from expectations and determine my own future. I was already 33 before I discovered what I was good at, and now, nearly 17 years later, here I am, working happily with many male and some female experts in a very dynamic satellite sector, while also being a mother to 3 boys. I do feel that it's important for girls and young women in particular to pursue their goals and seize opportunities when they can. We know that educated girls and women are likely to be healthier and happier, become drivers of the microeconomy, and ultimately help lift families, communities, and even nations out of poverty. I'm very proud to say that the satellite sector is helping to make this happen. So much of the world is digitally divided, and so many of those disadvantaged people are young women and girls. I want to give you 2 examples where satellite communications are bridging the gender divide. In Kenya, Avanti Communications runs the iMalango program. They educate 78,000 marginalized girls around 245 schools and train teachers in digital skills. The learning focus is on literacy, maths, and life skills. And the results of using computer labs are that for every 1 year of learning with the iMalango connectivity program, the learning age of the children actually increases by 18 months. The lives of these children would not have been transformed like this without satellite, because they just live too far away for it to make economic sense for telecoms companies to connect them. Thankfully, satellites are already in place and cover the world. The other example is from SES Networks. SES runs an Elevate training program for dish installers. Many female entrepreneurs, especially in Africa, have completed this training, giving them a skill set that is particularly valuable to get jobs in Africa and supporting them in becoming financially independent. We need to foster more such initiatives. Education is the heart of sustainable growth. Without that, we cannot hope to drive change for millions around the world, and women are key to that change. For this reason, we really need to applaud ITU initiatives such as Girls in ICT Day, the Girls and Women Talking Tech interviews, and the Equals Global Partnership. Dedicated initiatives targeting gender equality and celebrating female achievement with the promise of inspiring other young women and opening their minds to what they too can achieve. I want to close with a quote from Ban Ki-moon. He said, "Achieving gender equality requires the engagement of women and men, girls and boys. It is everyone's responsibility." When I was invited by the ITU representative to the UN to be interviewed, I felt really flattered. But it was only when I received feedback from other young Indian girls that they felt I was telling their story that I realized I was actually helping other people. I truly thank the ITU for allowing me to play my part and for championing this topic with such vigor. Thank you.
Thank you for those remarks, esteemed Secretary General. It's clear that there is an essential need for women to not only benefit from technology, but also to participate in the process from design to application to advance our collective humanity. And what will that humanity be without good health? Our next panelist is a senior lecturer at the Imperial College in London, and she practices as a gynecologist and expert educationist, a motivational, organizational, and transformational change advisor, and is also a visionary, futuristic healthcare enthusiast. To you, distinguished panelists, I ask, is there a gender gap in female clinician representation in health informatics?
Thank you so much, Babusi, for that introduction, and thank you for for me to be invited on this panel. Excellent talk so far, and I'm sure that the ones that are going to follow are going to be equally as interesting and invigorating. So definitely, I'll say from my experience, I find myself with a footprint in 3 different domains, which is I'm a cancer specialist, a gynecologist, as well as I'm an educationist based at Imperial College. And thirdly, by default, because of an interest in technology right from the beginning, and also because I was at Imperial College in a very research and technologically exciting environment, I find myself in the world of disruptive technologies in healthcare. And I find that there is so much of opportunity there, but I don't see many female clinicians who have also an interest or some form of accreditation in disruptive technologies or any ICT based technology. So, although we are, we've grown up as the next generation and we are savvy with use of the day-to-day technologies, ICT based technologies, but I think as far as policy making and further input is required, in usage of new innovative technologies in healthcare, there is a lot that can be achieved. So I have to mention the COVID situation because we are in the unprecedented times of a pandemic. And first of all, I hope and pray that everyone is safe and their families are safe. But being at the forefront of fighting COVID as a clinician, we have suddenly found ourselves to be in the middle of using innovative technology, which would normally take years to get through the red tape, simply to get for people to think about them. But now, by default, we've suddenly been given the green signal, and it has actually shown to be a proven case study that how technology and ICT-based technology has helped individuals, both as patients, communities, populations, as well as caregivers, as well as clinicians. It was very frustrating to see various populations suffering simply because the expert advice could not reach them. And thankfully, by the use of telemedicine platforms, as well as their advanced technology supports through telemedicine that could, such as devices, such as AI-based technologies, we have managed to not only teach students at a time like this using these technologies, as well as benefit the patients. So I would bring in an example that what I have been involved in recent months because of the COVID situation. A lot of our colleagues, unfortunately, and especially female colleagues, were not up to date with the technology information of using these tools. So I put together an educational program which is for safe usage of telemedicine, safe practice of telemedicine, using the telemedicine technology. And this is to increase the awareness as well as the knowledge base of our clinician colleagues, especially the female clinician colleagues, as to the ethical as well as legal issues that may be involved in usage of technology, as well as the potential, because there's a lot that can be done. And I would not like to see that simply because our representation is not as much, our very important perspectives, especially from being a female patient as well as a female clinician, that was lost. So this has been what I feel that is a major opportunity that needs to be curtailed. I totally agree with my esteemed fellow panelists who have said that without female input, it's very difficult to have a complete picture of the potentials and opportunities, because I think I'm biased, that the females, women have got a better perspective on everything because we are multitaskers. We have the role of being, mothers as well as homemakers. Along with that, we have our expertise in our chosen profession. And given that we are in our fourth generation of innovation, I think we are almost entering the fifth generation where machines are in the decision-making stage. Women should be at the cusp of policy making in this area. So within healthcare, I feel there is not as much representation from the digital and disruptive technology point of view. And I would invite colleagues who are maybe interested in this and join me through the platform. The link for the platform is in my bio. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you very much, honorable panelists, for this insightful response as a frontline worker and adopter of what are life-saving technologies. We do now turn over to the honorable CEO of Fundación ABA Colombia. He is also the president of ABA Colombia Foundation, a non-profit organization helping children and families affected by war in Colombia through education with self-sustainable projects around the country. My question to you, honorable CEO, what are the challenges your organization faces in its work towards enabling women in Colombia to have better access to technology? Over to you, honorable panelist.
Yeah, thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Babuzi. Thank you very much for the question, and good morning to everyone and the high-level panelists. I will say that buenos días a todos. It's 7:30 in the morning in Colombia, so it's great to be with you, and what a privilege to have this great opportunity to talk about our stories and what we have seen here about technology and the introduction of women working on that. ABA Colombia is an NGO organization. We have been starting in 2005. Since there, we work in education through seminars, workshops, leadership skills, and self-sustainable business for women, young girls, ethnic groups, and men, especially in the areas where the armed conflict in Colombia has been affected the population. In Colombia, the use of technology like computers, tablets, cell phones, and the different internet services has contributed to expand different ways of violence against women and young girls, especially women in the poor areas. There is a big gap between women in the big cities like Bogota, Cali, Medellin, Barranquilla, etc., and those women in the rural areas and small towns where the access to internet, it is difficult and very expensive to have. So most of these towns and villages has been affected by the armed conflict and are controlled by the guerrillas and other armed groups who recruit women and young girls to be part of the conflict and been affected by many ways of violence to most of them. Colombia has improved a lot in technology, but it is important to develop a strategy to teach women and young girls to use technology in a dynamic way to help them to develop their skills and use them to start their own sustainable business, which will help them to get out of poverty, especially in these areas where the access to technology is difficult and I was saying before, expensive to have. Creating a network business in these areas and giving them the opportunity to be the bosses of their own jobs will help them to get out of the armed groups and guerrillas. This also gives them the opportunity for women and young girls to be in contact with each other and to avoid any kind of violence. This is a real challenge, and because most of these towns and villages are controlled by the guerrillas, and in many cases, they decided who can have access to the technology. During this time of the pandemic, COVID-19, women have suffered many domestic violence, but a majority of them feel fear to use their cell phones to call the authorities because the threats they receive. It is really a big challenge and a big job we have ahead of us to use technology to create self-sustainable jobs for women or young girls in these areas where the violence in Colombia has suffered. We're improving, but we need to do more so women can have access to get cell phones, laptops, internet, and use it to increase their income for their families, especially for single women and young widows who has lost their young husbands in the armed conflict. Let me talk about the challenges that we have ahead of us. The first one is to build up a leadership among women with the participation of young girls and empower them to lead and establish new laws and regulations for the use of technology to avoid any kind of violence against women and young girls. The second one is to develop among women and young girls the kind of leadership that they can influence in the internet business and telecommunications to develop good practice of this technology to defend the right of women. The third one is to do campaigns online to generate a culture to defend and protect women and young girls of any kind of violence. Fourth, to strengthen the organizations related to technology which are already working in Colombia defending the right of women. We have 3 achievements that we have access to Women of Success, which is a small school that we have created especially for women interested in developing their own business. The second one, for the last 5 years, we have trained more than 2,000 people, including women, young girls, and men and ethnic groups on leadership and business skills. Our organization has been accredited last year with the ECOSOC status at United Nations, which we are very grateful. And I'd like to finish with this, with a quote and a phrase from Nelson Mandela, who's saying, education is the most powerful weapon in the world. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for this insightful window into the workings of your organization and the critical work that you are doing to bridge Colombia's digital gender gap in a dynamic and sustainable way. Our next panelist is the president and CEO of High Tech Center for Nigerian Women and Youths. She's a passionate STEM and information technology advocate, a trained computer scientist, researcher, policy analyst, strategic planner, technology manager, and an entrepreneur of repute. Honorable panelist, to you I ask the following. How has your NGO been affecting women and girls in ICT and STEM fields? What forms of support are available for your interventions, and what are the challenges or areas of future partnerships for educating and empowering women and girls especially? Over to you.
Thank you so much, our coordinator and moderator. I try to do a little bit of sharing of my screen, and I hope everybody can see this. High Tech Center for Nigerian Women and Youth is an NGO, and we have been existing since 2004. That's about 16 years now. And we started with looking at women and girls and looking at possibilities of engaging them into computer and literacy in information and communications technology. Having had my background, I read computer science, and one of the challenges I discovered was that many of us that were graduates, as at that time, several years back, we have a challenge. There is this concern that people have. They are not interested in taking us into jobs because they believe that we can't do so much like our male counterparts. So I got so fascinated to do something for myself and to help every other woman. And so I began the computer digital literacy, and over a period of 10, 12, 13 years, we had quite a lot of initiatives that we have rolled out in the organization. Like we have what we call the Women in ICT Summit, which is targeted at women from 18 years and above who are of marriageable age, because I realized quite fast that the needs for every woman or for every female is completely different. And having worked and lived within the university campus at Obafemi Awolowo University in Nigeria, I discovered that what the females needed was completely a different ball game also. So that took us to conceptualizing a program that helps to bring women and girls to different IT and technology usage. And for us, we began to look into females, like I said, women and girls. We began to think about things that has to do with females in tertiary institutions. This is a picture of so many females from different tertiary institutions. And the reason is that we want to look at how do they become relevant when they are graduates out of the university, so that they won't have the same challenge that I personally and many other females had. And this had become a big event annually where females from different tertiary institutions come to learn different technologies. And over time, we began to look at, of course, we are part of the Girls in ICT every year, where we have girls from different schools and different communities coming to see computers, how to use it, how to do hardware, and the rest of that. But a very interesting part to what I started doing since 2017 is this issues about the STEM. STEM for us has become a stay because we realize that many of us who are scientists, who are graduates, we really could not do anything about science. We know it, but we cannot display how to do them. So I took it personally upon myself, having done my PhD, like it's been said, in policy and technology management. And I went and I learned how to produce solar panels. I went and I learned how to do other things in biotechnology. And that's helped me to begin to train not just women now, girls from schools, and several people, even men, began to come in, to the extent that by last year, early this year, we launched what we call the Boys and the Tech in Technology, and Tech Men in Technology, because many males are coming in. But for us, it's very profound to see that the women are so interested. The women has become very interested in agricultural tech. They have become very interested in food processing technologies. We had to identify security and safety community policing technologies, and several others, including the digital literacy, our hardware, renewable technologies, and the rest of that. And so in the last 16 years, we have deliberately focused on how we can ensure that many of our females in Nigeria, and indeed around the world, around the country, are able to not just learn how to use computers, but they should become producers of technology. So as at this, just after the COVID, shutdown and lockdown of everywhere, we opened up a training, hands-on training, where Nigerian females, girls in school, are being harnessed to learn how to do solar panel. Right now, they are learning how to do biotechnology, the biogas digester, so that we can build this technology as females and challenge the status quo. And like I said to you, because there was so much pressure on me, and everybody was coming in, the males were beginning to get agitated, we had to launch our first time ever project on males for technology. So that is what we have done so far. And one of the challenges we have seen as a roundup is that we need a lot of support in bringing more females in the community to do this. A lot of aspirations, a lot of desires, but like I said, these slides can be shown and seen by everybody, and then we can foster more partnership. But as of today in Nigeria, I'm proud to say a lot of women are now in the tech space. A lot of girls are interested, and we have been able to take them from where they were to as many places in technology. And many of them are doing computer science in school, going for science courses in the universities, and that is good for us. Thank you.
Thank you for what has been a very well articulated response, distinguished speaker. We now turn to our next panelist, a robotics researcher at SoftBank Robotics. This esteemed panelist is enthusiastic about designing the next generation of robots and promoting their presence in real-world scenarios, including public spaces such as hospitals, schools, retail stores, and even workspaces and homes. Her current research focuses on the synthesis of multimodal, socially intelligent human-robot interaction. Honorable Speaker, my question to you is as follows. As the youngest panelist, still completing her PhD in robotics and AI at the Sorbonne University under the Marie Curie Fellowship, can you please highlight how and why it is crucial to implement gender equality policies very early on, especially in the development of technologies in AI and robotics, while sharing more about your personal experience working and studying in the STEM field?
Hello, thank you so much for having me here today. It's such an honor and a privilege to be here. Today I want to talk about technology and artificial intelligence, or AI, not just because it's the topic I know best to talk about, but also because I strongly believe gender equality in this field is very crucial early on. And so to highlight that, I want to tell you a bit about the story behind the title of UNESCO's publication on gender equality in AI. And the title of the book is called I'd Blush If I Could. And actually, this is the exact answer that was coded for the voice assistant Siri, which has a female voice. And that was the exact same answer Siri was coded to give whenever it would hear sexual assault from the users. And that's just one example of the so many present examples of gender bias in technology. And I'm not surprised that they do happen. You see, according to UNESCO, of all the software engineers in the entire world, 6% of them are women. And of all of the AI researchers, 12 of them are women. And gender and bias and sexism in technology and AI They emerge very early on based on the people who get to build and design these technologies, as well as the data set that these people pick in order to train their algorithms. So these two facts combined lead to a very dangerous reality. Today, we are building technologies that are manifested in our everyday lives, from the phones that never leave our hands, from robots that are now being present, even our cars are becoming intelligent systems. But all these technologies that influence us every single day, they are being built by representatives of only 50% of the population, and in very peculiar geographical locations. And this is fundamentally flawed. That means gender inequality is existing from a very early stage of production of these technologies and these algorithms that are being put out in the world every single day. And simply saying, okay, we're going to have a hiring quota to include more women is not enough, because that does not promote the accepting and the welcoming and supportive environment that women need in order for them to flourish in these places. Fortunately, there are many individuals and many NGOs, and especially women-led organizations, as we can see here today, that are fighting and trying to rise above this challenge. And I consider, from my personal experience, I consider myself very lucky to have a Marie Curie Fellowship, which is directly funded by the European Union Commission. And they have been very vocal about funding higher education for women in STEM fields. And a prime example of that is actually the robotics project that I'm part of. It's called Animatas. And we work with more than 17 universities and partners. And of the 15 PhD students that get to work on this project, 9 of them are women. And while this is great progress that we have been, and before I forget, we've also been using this funding to promote gender diversity, and we've also been able to work with NGOs such as Women in AI, El Bouge, in order to organize trainings and workshops for young women in robotics. And while we have been doing tremendous progress here in Europe, it has not always been the case from my experience. While today I get to work on a very gender diverse project, that was not the case back in 2018 when I was doing an engineering internship in Abu Dhabi. And actually I was working on a very big project that had more than 4,000 people on site every day. And I was actually the only female engineer. It was actually so rare to have female engineers that we couldn't even find safety shoes and safety equipment that would fit my size. Finally, before I give back my turn, I want to shed the light a little on gender inequality taking place in Lebanon, which is actually the country I was born and I was raised in. Lebanon has very few female leadership, and less than 5% actually from the parliament is made of women. That means we don't have enough amendments and making of laws that support these women. And despite all that, so many women are fighting back and they're trying to make their voices being heard. And before coming here, I got the chance to actually talk to so many of the NGOs that are working on that, on trying to promote women in engineering, technology, AI, STEM fields in general. One of them is called All Girls Code, that only in 3 years alone was able to gather more than 400 members and girls, and was able to expand the team to 40 people, and they've been raising a lot of awareness and training for the girls. Finally, I strongly believe that education for both women and men, girls and boys, is a powerful tool in raising and paving the way for the next generation of women in STEM by not only empowering them, but also creating the supportive and accepting culture that we're currently lacking. Once again, thank you so much for having me. It's been such a privilege and to be here, and I'm open to discuss this more in the Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your critical insights on the implementation of the policies that will guide our path towards gender parity in all sectors in this lifetime, as well as for representing the hopes of many young women across the world who are tuned into this session, working in or aspiring to enter the field of STEM. Our next panelist is the Honorable Development Director of the Chair at Agro Paris Tech Suez, the Suez Group, and is also the co-founder and vice president of the NGO Women and Men in Environment and Artificial Intelligence, otherwise known as Womenvai. She works to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, to promote gender equality, and share solutions to mobilize volunteers, entrepreneurs, and communities to accelerate the transition toward a more circular, united, and ecological economy. Honorable Director, my question to you is in two parts. Firstly, which initiatives in STEM sectors have you led to improve gender equality and ultimately contribute to the economic development and the achievement of the Gender Equality and Women Empowerment Sustainable Development Goals? And second, now more than ever, efforts from male and female engineers are actually key to the achievement of the SDGs. What are your recommendations to UN technical agencies who are working to mainstream gender at all levels, from field projects to upper level management? Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Babuse, for your question, longer question, but all the short answers. And also thank you so much to WSIS process organizers and amazing high-level panelists and the diversity of projects you are sharing today. It has been a great pleasure and honor to participate this year, the month, and today, because you did several webinars about sustainability, waste and water data solution for reducing environment impact, women engineers contribution to the ICTs related with the sustainable development goals, women balance, etc. It was impressive how during COVID-19, ITU and you achieved to adapt your environment to virtual meetings so fast. And it was not easy for all women, not used to work with ICTs. And only for that, thank you, because you helped at this moment, several of them adapt their professional life and see that the future is linked to improve capacity building with ICT tools. The first message I would like to share with you, leading projects, I would like to share that you are stronger together, women and men, and each organization, since I worked in 2008, bring me so many ideas, confidence, and prove us the power of capacity building networking. In a project, in a real project, you need to have a win-win, 50-50. People love to have the impression and be sure that they win somewhere. And why not about a gender challenge for women and men? We need also this partnership win-win. And here today, I'm one of co-founders of Womenvai, an international NGO tailored to support innovative projects and environment and high tech led by women, but supported by women and men. We offer programs to girls and women in STEM right from age of 8 and all along their career paths, but not only. Together with our partners, Swiss Engineering, the World Federation Engineers of Organization, private companies active in ICTs, Women and Gender Constituents, United Nations Framework, Climate Change, and so many women active in international network of women's engineers. You believe that climate ambition does not only refer to mitigation commitments, but to transform climate action and put a women-centered approach at its heart. Then one concrete project we lead to answer your question, it was during the last year in Benin with the support of the Minister of Communication, ICTs, Honor Madame Aurélie Adam-Soulé, Mr. Michel Okan, Mademoiselle Christelle Guindoué, and the whole team from the Minister of Benin, and the private companies that support us as AB5, Abshore, Suez. We organize a prize to teach women to speak about their project linked with environment and ICTs. Make their pitches, create their business model, but the most important, finding funds financing, and create partnerships with big companies and small companies and associations to link ICTs and the environment for young generation. It was an amazing experience because you bring a capacity building inside their country. And the vision and the mission we done for these young ladies is to continue to diffuse and share what they learn to other women in their countries. Yesterday, an amazing section with the United Nations Framework Climate Change Gender team has partnership with the UNITAR, United Nations Institute for Training and Research. They focus on verbal communication and bring on board amazing tools, giving the chance for rural women learning ICT tools. Currently, only 5 of 50 UNFCCC, United Nations Framework Climate Change constituency bodies, have a female representation that exceeded 38%, and overall, female represent average at 33%. We have a lot of things to do. And then I hope with all these great panelists, you can give some tips and help women around the world. Thank you so much. And once again, I'm honored to be here today.
Thank you very much, esteemed panelists. I've just been informed that we are now joined by the esteemed Honorable ITU Secretary General. He will now give us his remarks in closing the high-level policy sessions for this year's edition of the WSIS Forum, and we will proceed to our final speaker thereafter. Honorable Secretary General, over to you.
Oh, thank you very much, moderator. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. You are very kind to give me a chance to speak right now, because I'm supposed to speak towards the end of this panel. But as you can understand that I'm these days very busy, jumping from one virtual meeting to another. I just rushed out from my previous meeting with elected officials for some important topics. And after this, I have to go to another meeting and to talk about the general issues of ITU situation and our policies for returning to office. So that is very kind of you to give me floor. So it's a great pleasure to be here with you today. We are coming to the close of this high-level policy sessions of WSIS Forum 2020. I'm very pleased that we have had insightful discussions throughout the 2 weeks with ministers, deputy ministers, ambassadors, and leaders from different sectors and countries, highlighting the role of ICTs in sustainable development. Since its launch on the 22nd of June, the WSIS Forum 2020 has welcomed around 7,000 participants, with over 1,300 participants in the high-level policy sessions from around 130 countries. I think that is great. We have conducted more than 80 virtual workshops till today, including regional ones, and have had well-balanced geographical and stakeholder type participations in the meetings. Of course, this thematic workshop is also very important. Ladies and gentlemen, it's only appropriate that today we are ending with the high-level policy session on gender mainstream and ICTs, as this topic is very close to my heart. And I'm proud to announce that today we have been able to achieve the 50-50 gender balanced participation this year of the WSIS Forum. I'm not talking about today's session. Today's session, I think that men's participation is less than women's participation. In particular, from our panelists, I see a lot of distinguished colleagues and experts, ladies and moderator. You and me seems to be very minority here. But anyhow, last year we launched the 50-50 gender participation challenge at the WSIS Forum. And due to our collaborative movement to make a difference, we have been able to achieve outstanding results. So congratulations to all stakeholders who have contributed so far to this remarkable virtual journey. But the journey, we could say that by this WSIS Forum sessions, we reached this target. But generally speaking, as I said last week at the United Nations UNOC conference for the gender balance, because I'm an international champion for gender issues. So I told them that unfortunately, we still had big challenges. For example, last year at the ITU World Radio Communication Conference, where we had 3,600 participants. And the gender issue is still a big issue. And this ITU radio sector addresses this issue for quite some time. For each meeting, they organized a special gathering of women delegates come together and asked the meeting to support women's participations. And from my office, I sent out my invitation letter with additional new paragraph to ask administration to send experts, lady experts to our meetings. And we did see some result. Last WRC 2019, we had women participation reached the level of 18%, increased from 12% in 2012. So it's a 50% increase, but still only 18%, far away from 50-50. So that is still a big challenge to us. We have to recognize the challenges, and we have to make efforts to continue to work. So WSIS Forum 2020 conducted a total of 11 high-level policy sessions, which covered a wide range of topics, including bridging digital divides, ICT applications and services, building confidence and security in the use of ICTs, enabling environment, ethical dimensions of the information society, e-trade, capacity building, e-learning, and gender mainstreaming. I was very pleased to see that so many high-level participants emphasized on the importance of bridging the digital divide. Let's remember that today we still have 3.6 billion people around the world are still not connected to the internet, mostly those living in rural areas and remote communities, which is why our core mission must be to connect everyone, everywhere. And in the middle of June, Secretary General of United Nations, Mr. Guterres, called all of us to work together to achieve a goal by 2030 to have everybody connected with affordable prices. The same target was presented to me September last year at our IT Telecom by some ministers, and asked me, as Mr. Zhao, Secretary General, we appreciate very much your message. You don't want to leave anybody behind. But can you please tell us when we can have everybody connected? Then, by which time? Could we achieve this goal by 2030? To be honest with you, I told them, I'm very, very much hesitant to tell you that there will be possible. In my opinion, it's not easy. By 20, we only have 10 years to go. But however, that if we do something, we can improve. But to look at the speed of improvement over the last 2 years, every year we get around 1.5 to maximum 2% of improvement of internet connectivity. We still have 46% not connected yet. If we continue this speed, and how can we achieve by 2030 everybody connected? And those people are not connected in the poor area, we need more efforts to bring them connected. Now, if this is a big challenge, digital divide, the gender divide, it's a really issue for us. Of course, without our gender division be eliminated, you cannot achieve this digital divide. And we noted also, according to our statistics, today still, the more men use internet than women. And some statistics show that around 60% of men use 60% use internet. Around 45% of women use internet. So that if you look at the percentages, women still left behind. So we have the big challenges. So we are encouraged by the support shown for ITU's efforts in digital inclusion and the much needed wide-scale international cooperation in this area to realize the vision of secure information and knowledge societies as envisaged in WSIS. Throughout the sessions, some countries shared their efforts to respond to and cope with the impact of COVID-19. It was emphasized that we needed to leverage the potential of ICTs towards combating the pandemic. It is now well recognized that ICTs are a key part of building back better for more inclusive healthcare and education, more sustainable business practices, and for the implementation of the SDGs. So the WSIS Forum remains the platform to track the implementation of the WSIS action lines to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in collaboration with partner UN agencies. Let me highlight that the summary of the high-level policy sessions will be included in the WSIS Forum 2020 high-level outcomes and executive brief, and will also be presented orally by the chairman and high-level track facilitators during the final week of WSIS Forum 2020, which will take place from 7 to 10 September later this year. We hope to have physical meeting then, but unfortunately with the situation in COVID-19 developed so badly, I'm afraid we cannot have a physical meeting at the beginning of September in Geneva. So we'd like to see you virtually. I would like to thank all the panelists who joined us for the high-level policy sessions. The chairman of the WSIS Forum, His Excellency Mr. Gustavo Montalvo, Minister of the Presidency, Dominican Republic, and the 11 high-level track facilitators who moderated the session so carefully for their commitment and the dedication towards making this session so interesting and outcome-oriented. Finally, I'd like to congratulate all of you who have joined the interesting discussions today. And of course, the moderator, I also must add my appreciation to you, that as a man, he for she, that we need to mobilize more resources, more partners to work with us and to support this campaign. So dear ladies and gentlemen, it is my immense pleasure to now officially close the high-level policy sessions of WSIS Forum 2020. And this is the end of my remark, but I understand that we still have one or more speakers to speak after me, so that the official closure will be closed as soon as the moderator announces the closure of this session. So that take my word as some of our early messages to announce the closure of this high-level policy sessions. I have to leave now. So moderator, I return the floor back to you and wish you great success to close this session. And once more again, appreciate all panelists and all participants of this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Honorable Secretary General, for these remarks and for making time to share them given your schedule. And it is indeed excellent news that this year's WSIS Forum has achieved gender parity. Our final panelist today is the Honorable President of the World Extended Reality Forum. His forum gathers high-end companies, experts, and decision makers every year to discuss and showcase the latest technologies that relate to extended realities, or XR. He developed a unique program for children, implemented experimentally in Rwanda and the most prestigious boarding school in Switzerland, Institut Le Rosé. And honorable panelist, I would like your opinion on the following. In the world of extended reality, how is gender equality mainstreamed? In the creation of avatars, use of voices, the display of virtual and augmented reality, what have you observed? Over to you.
Oh, sorry, you were not hearing me. So hello, everyone, and thank you again for the honor. I'm so happy to be amongst all of you distinguished panels. And I also want to congratulate ITU and the WSIS team for bringing the event virtually in such hard conditions. So congratulations to everyone again. Thank you for the question. It's a great question. Indeed, extended reality offers us the chance to embody new personas, new characters, which are not in the, I would say, regular gender criterias. And this becomes really interesting because on one hand, we're able to experiment what it is to be in the other gender, and we can even go beyond into becoming something which, representations which are not existing in real life. So it allows to completely open up and understand further what it is to be in a different gender.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for sharing your insights on gender representation through proxy entities in extended realities, Honorable Speaker.
And I would say that we are just at the beginning of this, in a sense that right now 5G will help us to further be able to stream proper holograms of ourselves in virtual worlds. And thanks to the work of ITU and standardization, we'll be able to bring this further. And I think that especially in the situation with COVID where we have to work remotely, all the possibilities that offer us virtual bodies are super interesting. And even if you think for HR or for being able to hire someone, you might be able to actually run interviews of people without knowing their origin, their gender or anything, as they would be embodied by the avatar that they would choose. Even the voice can be modified to become gender neutral. So many opportunities will be offered, and connectivity is key, of course, because to benefit from these technologies, you need proper connection. And I think this is the key, is to be able to break the digital divide so everybody can benefit in the future from what immersive technologies can bring.
Sounds good. Thank you. I look forward to exploring alternate realities with my alternate self.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. If I am correct, this concludes the panel discussion portion of our session. And we now move to field questions posed by our participants to the panelists. And I'll just look into the Q&A section. And our first question looks at the available opportunities for people living in the first world, which are not as prevalent in what is typically termed the third world. And taking this into account, what would you say are the root causes of gender inequality within STEM in the first world? What are still the friction points in achieving this kind of parity in environments where we still have a much wider availability of resources and opportunities for women and girls? Would one of our panelists like to volunteer to take that question?
I can probably shed a light on it from my experience. For me, for instance, I work currently in robotics and directly in the STEM field, but when I was 18 and I was told you needed to make a choice, that wasn't the first choice that I made, simply because I was not exposed to it. I didn't know that women could work in such places, or that women do work in such places. And I think that currently there is a lot of work being done on training the young girls at a very young age, how to code and how to work with, mechatronics equipment or robots or all these things that, for example, in my experience, I didn't have. So I simply did not know. And it was something that later on I discovered was a career that I could do. So probably that is it. And I think another important point that we have, while we are truly empowering women, and I think that was highlighted today, it is also equally important to educate men and bring men into the equation. So when we do these trainings, also bring in men, because at the end of the day, women will be working with men and men will be working with women. And we need to have this supportive and accepting culture for both, which currently, unfortunately, also from my experience, I haven't been seeing a lot. I mean, we do encourage women, but then we throw them in sometimes not an acceptive environment. And you do sometimes encounter sexist comments from men. And sometimes, you're like, okay, well, do I have to constantly fight to make it? And so I think these are also two very important points that maybe may lead to women not directly picking it as a career.
Cool, that's an excellent response. While I have you here, there's another question that I think you'd be perfectly suited to answer. This is from a user who asks, as a woman who wants to learn coding, what opportunities are available for them?
Honestly, there are, as I was saying, it warms my heart to see that there are so many women-led organizations out there in almost every country, whether you're in the Middle East, you're in Africa, you're in Europe, and many of them are, you can easily find them on social media or on Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on. And they give these training programs for free, and they put you in contact and networking opportunities with people in the field. So not only would they teach you how to code, but also they would help you find a job. And so yeah, if depending on where your country is, please feel free to contact me after, and I would be very happy to help you with that.
Great. Thank you very much, esteemed speaker.
Thank you.
Our second question is two-pronged. It was initially directed to the Secretary General of the ITU, but I think we have an amazing panel and people joining this call who might be able to contribute an answer. The question asks how the ITU can help Colombia be connected to the internet, and also how ICT interventions can assist people who have low to middle incomes. Is there anyone on the floor who would like to pick this question up? Just raise your hand if so.
Can I take that question, because they mentioned Colombia. So
Sure.
can I repeat it in my mind? They said, how can ITU use technology to improve technology in Colombia?
Yes, so one,
is that
to
the
increase
question?
connectivity, and also to assist people who have low incomes to improve their lives.
Yeah, well, I will say that I don't think that is the ITUs, the boss of the way that can improve technology in Colombia. I think all of us have to do that job, but obviously ITU can help in that way. But in the poor areas, where I said, more from the government and from the Ministry of Communication that to improve, you know, for the poor areas. I mean, I remember just a couple of months ago during the COVID-19, there was a little guy climbing on a tree to have connection on internet. So that is not really the problem of ITU. I think the problem of the government, how can the government of Colombia have access, you know, for the young boy to have technology to be connected and study. So we need to look at the region and the country situation of how the government can improve technology. That will be my answer.
Understood. Thank you very much, panelist. And I'm also sure there are tons of resources on the ITU website. That's itu.int. I think you can find access to resources where your answer might be better answered, as well as member organizations that are working specifically to solve the problem that you just posed. And our final question reads as follows. Considering the events of 2020, is everyone getting connected to the internet a priority, or rather how to use ICT in avoiding the pandemic of the future? Are these two mutually exclusive, or are there scenarios where these are connected? It's a pretty nebulous question. I really like it. I think it would be best suited for someone who's working within the healthcare space and the ICT space, of which we are privileged to have a panelist who works in both. If they would like to pick this up, I would be very thrilled.
If I may respond to this one?
Yes, kindly do.
I would say that one of the most fundamental things that needs to happen, and that we have realized from the COVID pandemic, is that connectivity for all must be made a priority. Connectivity is seen too much as just an enabler, when in fact it is the bedrock for enabling education, healthcare, and things which we consider as primary rights of every individual human being. So I think by prioritizing bridging the digital divide and by inviting policymakers to really be bold, there is a race to implement 5G. There is no race to bridge the digital divide. There should be. There absolutely should be. And if that is one of the most important lessons learned from the fact of this pandemic, I think we couldn't have a clearer one.
Thank you very much, panelists. And that concludes our Q&A session. I would like to thank all our distinguished panelists again for being here with us. And I'd like to thank all of you, our audience members around the world, for your participation. And I'd also like to thank the WSIS Forum Organizing Committee for putting together this 11th session and the others before it. And we would also like to thank the WSIS supporters and sponsors. And to thank them, we've prepared a short video, which we'll play in a second. And while it's playing, I would like to thank all of the audience members for your kind support of this session and remind you that while the high-level track sessions are over, the WSIS Forum is continuing for a couple of weeks more. So I encourage you all to browse the agenda and to attend upcoming sessions of interest. And thank you, everyone. This has been such an incredible session. I've learned so much, and thank you for your opinions and the time taken to share them to our panelists, to our esteemed guests, your excellencies. I thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much, Babuzi. Thank you to everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
It was amazing.
Babusi, congratulations. Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Meeting all of you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.